That's gonna push up the outro one. It's easy to compute. Not, yeah, it's one of your tracks, guys. Actually, it's the old one of the old net runners. Input is correct. That's how it goes, I suppose. Rick, I wish I could show this to you guys because I did a cool like little thing in video, but. Is there a way I can show you? I don't know. Oh yeah, I could probably. I don't know. That'll take time. I'm quiet. Okay. Let me see what I can do here about that. Let's crank that up. Let's go here, and then that voice input should be correct. Okay. Let's see. Let's do a voice isolation. Maybe that'll work. Oh, that's very loud. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it is about my my Mac OS, but this is not very cooperative. Allowing me to actually set my microphone input here. Okay, I wonder if that. Maybe that did it. Because I clicked it. Okay, maybe it'll stay. No, it's not going to stay. Okay. I don't understand why. Like, there's no settings. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, well let me show. Let's see if I can. I do want to show this. So let's hide this. All right. We get the behind the scenes. So let's change over to this. Okay, this is what they're seeing. And we will do this. There we go. The intro cinematic, bro. Not, perhaps not as thrilling if you're watching it from the behind-the-scenes version, but hopefully the stream caught it. Let's change that over, and then I suppose we ought to get started because we got a lot going on here. Let's switch that over there, and then move this over here a little bit, and then hope that we're in good shape. What's up, Al? How you doing?
Hey man, not too bad.
Good, good.
Grinding away. Got 8 clods running right now. It's on at 4.5. It's a big win, I think.
Nice. Carry me for 2 minutes. I gotta go grab my water. One sec.
Sure. Hey folks, welcome. Anybody wants to hop on, give us a chat, more than welcome to. This is a Q&A session, so if you're watching on the stream, also you can come join us on Discord and hop into the arena, and we'd love to have you in the chat. We also will be posting this later to YouTube and a few other places. This week's topics of discussion will be mostly focused around Cloud Plugins library. We also, we did a deep dive, Yex and I did a deep dive this week on Factory AI. So we've been power using that for a couple days. And we're going to talk through some of the differences between factory and using like native Claude code or native codecs, because it's actually a very different beast. The harness is quite a bit different from just using the agents yourself. And we got a couple little tribe updates for you guys. Teams is live, and we got a new CLI that just came out yesterday, so that's kind of cool. So if you've been using the old tribe CLI, you've got a new beast of a machine coming to you. And what else is going on?
We got a ton of news.
We also have a music jam session.
Yes.
But I don't know if we're going to wait for our guest to come up and introduce himself.
Yes, our guest for this week is my friend Kev. Otherwise, you can find him at the Collabage Patch online. And I will allow him up onto stage because I'm a gracious host. But he is going to clue us in about how he made his product, give a little bit of a demo on his product and what his workflow is like. And in addition to that, as you can see perhaps on the screen, I have a few documents in terms of best practices, how-tos, etc. We have like a ton of news for all of the things that came out this week, so we got plenty to go through. But yeah, Kev, hi, how are you? What are you doing? Fixing your mic, presumably?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we got you. You're good. What's up, buddy?
My name's Kev. I pretty much only make music stuff, AI music stuff, open source. I still don't consider myself a developer. So, and like, I love coming to these chats because I get to see like the other side of, the AI developer workspace, because I don't really use agents.
Yeah.
I hang out in the browser. Occasionally, I'll have WebClaude write up a Claude MD. It's like very targeted, But for the most part, yeah, it's. I feel like the context pollution is so quick with agent,
It very
and it's
much
not
so,
just
yeah.
it's not just the agent's context; it's my context. Like
Solid
there's
point.
like there's got to be this shared context between us, and if either one of us gets off the rails, then it's just kind of like neither one of us is helpful,
I noticed that a lot too, yeah, especially in a lot of my own workflows. It's not necessarily a matter of like, can I get the agent to perform adequately? It's more like, can I get it to perform adequately and keep track of it such that I can still make sure that it's performing adequately. So it's sort of like a balancing act. But it's interesting to me that you're like basically agentless, but have managed to like largely, be able to get through shipping a product all the way to production, all the way to deployment in the cloud, like with actual cloud platforms, et cetera, and still all the way through the chat window. And yeah, I don't know if you can see my little live thing, but I have your little Gary for Juice here up. So just
there's two branches there that you could see too, where I did use Claude Code. And maybe a little bit of codecs too for this project, because I ended up with an 8,000 line God file. Like Claude could still read it just fine. Like WebClaude could read it really well. But at a certain point, I was like, oh, well, shouldn't we be doing best practices? Because everybody always talks about that. And 8,000 line file is probably not the best practice. But So I did have Claude Code refactor it, but this was another time where it was like I felt like after he got done, everything still worked, but I had to relearn where everything was in my code base.
I noticed that a lot too, where when you have agents working async, I have pretty much the same problem where it's unless I'm really paying attention to the agents, it's hard for me to keep track of what's happening in the code base. So I sort of like resort to alternate means. So I totally understand like the instinct to stay on web client But I'm surprised that this, like, I'm scrolling through this file here, like, you know, we have an 8,000 line CPP file, and that Claude is able to, like, actually be assistive in an
Yeah,
environment like this. Yeah.
Claude Code cannot read that file.
Interesting.
Yeah, so what ends up happening is he just gets stuck in this hell loop of trying to find functions. You know, he's running. I can see him running these commands, and it's just I see error after error because the file is too large. But WebClot is just like, I can read it perfectly, bro. Let's keep going. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Codex doesn't seem to get that same context limit of single files.
Yeah.
Or at least it doesn't tell you about it.
I think the thing that I notice with Codex and is Claude seems to be pretty inclined to only partially read files, whereas Codex will just kind of like it'll grab a couple of chunks and then figure out if it can do the work, and then it'll just read the whole file in if it can't, which is not something I notice Claude do too often. But let me.
Yeah, and so that's why I'll have WebClaude just read the bulk of the code base, and then he actually writes like the line numbers and stuff. And sometimes he's not exactly right, but he writes the function names that Claude Code should look for. You know, and so I have WebClaude do these very specific Claude MDs I just have one Claude MD that I update.
Well, yeah, no, that makes sense. So the general idea being like, like Claude Code will work in the code base, but the kind of the way that you like spec out the work plan for Claude Code is like through the web kind of interface. Is that am I reading that?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I'll basically write like a little novella, just kind of talking about what we're trying to do, and you know, I'll let WebClaude know that we're going to be handing it off to Claude Code. And I don't even read the Claude MD. I just kind of, you know, once I've written my little novel, I know that all the context is there, you know.
Yeah, is there a, do you have anything that's like, that I can visit in the browser that's like product level? Because I want to, like, we've got the code base. I'm curious. I wish I could show
this
off
is
the
actually
app,
live right now. So I've been working with Magenta Real-Time, which is kind of a nightmare because it's a Google model. One sec.
Yeah, no worries. My guess for the nightmare realm is probably because Google models enjoy TPUs, and TPUs are difficult to work with because you have to get out.
Yeah, and there's stuff that happens with it where it jacks seems to pile up stuff. Like I'll have to reboot the VM because all of a sudden it's producing silence. And like I have so much cleanup code, like code that's supposed to clean up the previous session.
There we go.
But here, yeah, this is a Hugging Face space I spun up that you can just duplicate. Because it's a big model too. You need like 32 gigabytes. But if you scroll down there, you can see there's a web interface that GPT-5 just one-shotted.
Yeah, nice.
And so this is live right now. Yeah, it says it's ready.
Sweet.
You might want to, no, it should be fine. You're on the base model, I think, right now, actually. Because, you can fine tune this model.
Oh, do I have to go? Oh, the patch, like we can do yours. Patch, Magenta.
No. Stay on the base model because my fine tune's a little unhinged. You're good.
Okay, well,
I did it in like 13 tracks. I just wanted one so that I could get the model select endpoint set up.
Okay, there we go. Let's see. We have a start, and now we have a ping.
Yeah, and then you got dice buttons there for styles.
Dice buttons. I do. They're a little bit crowded, but you know, I'm on Safari. That's my.
I hate prompt.
I just want to.
Is it jammed?
Yeah,
I can't hear.
Let's see. I cannot hear anything either. So we have. the update. We have a guidance.
It's been a while since I've used this interface.
So sorry, can I catch up here a little bit?
Yeah.
Hey Kev, really like. I'm impressed you pulled off this level of complex product on purely web tools. It's pretty amazing. Right now, what are you guys trying to do? You're trying to actually get a song generated fully out here.
It should be jamming, yeah.
Oh, very cool. I think this. Yeah, you showed me this tool about a couple of months ago, right? This is quite an evolution.
I think I showed you an old version, yeah.
Yeah, I've actually I incorporated it into the DAW. I could actually
Oh yeah, if you wanna go live, feel free. But
it was also doing that unhinged thing recently. I was just talking about where it starts producing silence. I could share my screen.
Yeah, well, let's
see you guys.
Here's my thought, or like, I have a sequence of thoughts.
Probably a link as well, and we can all play with it together.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, we could probably mess around with it in the lounge afterwards. But
I'm not sure what's going on there. I gotta.
Yeah. So, Kev, more about how you actually managed to pull this off, because it looks like there's like some pretty sophisticated server hosting and stuff like that going on behind the scenes. And you said you did this all with web clients.
Yeah, I actually, it all started, me, Yikes, and Baco did a hackathon in late 2023. And I was really interested in music gen continuations. You know, I'm a musician, so I want them to use my input audio. I really can't stand text prompting. It's for music models, you know? So it's definitely been a long time that I've been working on all this, and like every project tied to this, like that app that he's got on the screen, this also uses stable audio and magenta to jam in real time. But so I create these endpoints, and then I just kind of build a UI very iteratively. You know, these models are all so unpredictable. So you just have to, I don't think I could really automate some of this stuff. You know, I have to be, every little feature, I have to be using it, you know? So I think it helps me in the web chat where I get this kind of, what if we do X, you know? And then I get to see multiple, you know, you can hit the retry button in the chat. I think that's why I didn't use cursor. The first day I was trying to use cursor, the chat like vanished when I wanted to like go back to it and kind of do these retries that I do with the web Claude.
Yeah, I gotta gas up the.
So you can.
I want to gas up the origin a little bit just to because the familiarity with the web client is I know something because and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Like you're in terms of programming, you're essentially entirely self-taught and almost entirely just via interacting with ChatGPT making stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I had never coded until 3.5 Turbo.
Nice.
I do come from a family of coders, but I was just the artist, you know, black sheep. So yeah, I kind of, one thing after another this year, the models have just gotten a lot better. You know, so I incorporated melodyflow, and then stable audio open small, and each model kind of has its own capability that I discovered. Stable audio open small has really good BPM awareness. So in the DAW, you can just tie it to the global BPM.
Yeah, I think there's a lot.
I only found that out incidentally, you know.
I feel like a lot of musician people, especially people who are into like electronic music side, because like you know, they're using stuff like Ableton and Reaper and stuff and automations already anyway. So I feel like as a you know, I like, yes, suno is cool. It's nice for non-musicians to be able to generate music, but I think as a musician, it's it's super cool that you can generate code and also like learn about software and how you can apply it to like your artistic process in like a way that like works, and you're actually learning about both and like making stuff you can keep. or sell in this
Yeah,
case.
and it makes debugging more fun because even when the models screw up, sometimes you end up with usable samples anyway. You know, and that's the whole point.
That's pretty cool. Wait, so do you have like a huge archive? Oh, this is your archive of all of these songs that you've created. I see.
No, so in that app there, you can save individual loops as you're jamming. So that's an iOS app I haven't released yet because it's hard to figure out the infrastructure for a model that needs 32 gigabytes of GPU.
Yeah.
But here, I'll share my screen so you can see a little more of how Gary for Live works.
Yeah, I'll drop mine.
It's not letting.
Swap to
Can you give us a bit of the background on the music side of what's actually going on under the hood here? Because I think probably, at least for myself and probably a lot of the people that will listen to this, not an expert in music. So when you say like DAU and there's a number of terms you brought up. Can you give us a walkthrough like how this works?
Digital audio workstation like Ableton or Fruity Loops or FL Studio.
Cool. And the previous process for this would have been like just mixing by hand, and then you said that there was kind of like a generation of text to music prompts that are kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
So what you're doing here is uploading the full file of your masters and then trying to remix it, basically.
Yeah. So let me 1 sec. Just share the entire screen.
It should let you.
So this is Ableton. Can you see?
Yes, I can see. Let me see if I can swap over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 models here. Gary, I just nicknamed him because I do that. Gary is Music Gen, which is kind of a dated model now, but this one's unhinged, and we like it. But, so what I'm doing here is I'm recording audio into the plugin. Can you hear?
Yep.
A bit, yeah.
Okay. So then what I can do is we have this prompt duration. We're using an audio prompt. So we're not telling it what to do. We've got a fine tune that already knows. He's got one thing that he does. This is a model that was trained on Noisia and Gydra. So it thinks that all input audio is like the build up to an epic drop.
Yeah. And for context, if I don't know if you were in the audience, if you could hear, but the intro music that I was playing to the stream today was produced by our friend Gary here. So, pretty good track.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, I dropped it's that old the Netrunner when you were making Netrunner soundtrack stuff for me. Yeah, I was playing some of that. Yeah, very thematic.
Yeah, so that's Gary. Okay, so it looks like he probably went off the rails. You can even see in the waveform.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little muted.
The audio is not coming through fully, but I can see from the waveform that there's a significant acceleration.
So then what I would do right there is I would crop it and be like, no, dude, we're going to go again. So that's how Gary works. Okay, Jerry is the stable audio open small model, which is it's kind of special in that it can do 12 seconds of audio in under a second. That sample that I was just playing that we recorded, that was a Jerry generation. And I literally just type gibberish. It doesn't seem to care. They used adversarial post training to get that 1 second generation time. And it seems to, it just doesn't even care. So, boom, we got drums.
Let's see. Oh yeah, unfortunately, the audio's not good.
Oh, you can't hear?
No, not really. It's like pretty muffled.
Oh, okay. You know what that is? That's the thing I'm actually going to have to feed to Claude Code. So it's using the system audio inside the plugin. Let me drag it in.
Yep, checks out. And what's your level of confidence that you feeding that to Claude Code is going to actually be able to like get you through it?
I think if I write a long enough prompt, you know, and just describe exactly what's going on in that plugin editor.cpp. It should be fine.
So this seems like the ultimate human in the loop testing iteration case. Is it? Have you tried getting the agents to actually iterate and test things for you, or is it mostly like you actually have to press the button and try it out?
See, that's the thing, is I can never, especially with this C++, I need Visual Studio open. I got to use the UI. Every time I ask them to, they try to do build commands, it doesn't work, you know, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't really understand CMake that well. But yeah, they always try and do these like Visual Studio terminal commands, and it doesn't work. Same thing with the Swift apps. I just have to have Xcode open because there's things I can, you know, it's like a one-click thing for me to start up the simulator and just click a button.
I know one
and
of the
test it.
I know one of the tricks
Rather than writing.
One of the tricks that I actually learned from you was, and my suspicion here is, I wonder if the terminal commands that they're using are for an older version of Visual Studio Code or something like that. Because I know one of the things that you and I have discussed, like, kind of at length, is that in terms of your tool, like previously, if you were trying to design a tech stack, you would try to look for the best tool for the job. But in this case, what you want to do these days is actually you should take into consideration how much of the use of that tool exists in the model's training data. So if you're using the latest version of Visual Studio and the latest version of CPP, then you'll probably end up with a model that's not doing that, because that is not the bulk of their training data.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I've also learned, is that it's always better to not let them Google. If a model ends up on Google, it's going to find a human who probably is hallucinating a bad solution, and it's going to trust that more than its training data. You know, it kind of, to me, the whole point of these things is that they've already got all that inside them, you know, and they're better at duct taping solutions when it's a battle-tested library, you know.
I think at least for
something.
At least for me, it's like, or like the thing that would make sense to me if I were to try to like figure out what the optimal path there is probably let them pick the tool set, and then once they've picked the tool set, then they can go online, or they can go online to that version's docs, and then they can use those docs, because they're inevitably going to hallucinate some part of it, like they're going to jumble it up a little bit. But if you let them pick the version, and then you get them that version's docs to work off of, I feel like that would be like a really strong kind of reinforcer for the kind of stuff you're trying to get.
It was funny that the other week I actually tried to get GPT to do a deep research on Magenta RT. And as I'm reading through all this stuff it came back with, I'm like, oh, wow, somebody's discovered exactly what I have. I must be right. And then I look at the link, and it's found my Hugging Face space. And I'm like, no, dude, don't listen to that. Like, we don't know what we're doing. Like,
nice. I love it.
That's, you know, I like firsthand experience of how, like, what it finds on the internet, it's not necessarily a good source, you know, that probably better off if I had just asked it to hallucinate some things about Magenta RT, you know, because that's what it ended up finding anyway, you know.
Yeah, no, I
get with anything open source, it tends to work really well if you actually get it to clone the repo and then look at the actual code, or if there's like a library that it can pull down. Otherwise, you're right, it does completely go off the rails. We had this, there was a hackathon last Friday, Datalist, which is like a new YC, Y Combinator company that's come out, and they ran a hackathon basically just around making sure that MCPs are secure, which is kind of the same thing, which is like, you know, there's all these tools that the agents can use, but the vast majority of them have a bunch of agent-written content on their websites, and so they're like often overstating what they're actually capable of.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of like, even just using the docs is almost also a little bit error-prone, because your agent is going to go off of the other agent's hallucination that it came up with as branding to try to get people to use the product. It's very odd. Seems to be a recursive hallucination cycle.
Yeah, perfect
Yeah.
segues, my friend. Yeah, there's a couple of the stuff that I pulled from this week's portion of the research run that involved best practices searches. There is something that is actually what is frequent intentional compaction. I forget why that was a perfect segue, but I believe something you just said was related to how to compress.
Plugins?
What's that?
Cloud plugins?
Cloud plugins
Or were you
are
thinking more of
among yeah. No, I have a whole list of other stuff. I guess I'll drop the notebook afterwards, but the topics of how do you like if I'm using the web browser, then I'm curating the context window for the application. Whereas with the alternative of Claude Code, I'm letting Claude do its own curation of that window. And then the one of the like principles that I picked up with this week is a frequent intentional compaction style of workflow in which you are trying to take the stuff that the model is throwing at you and then trying to be that sort of last mile filter to figure out what you're going to persist out of the like glob that they gave you. There's like a bunch of good, interesting study guides and flashcards in here, but I'll leave a link to that at the end because I do kind of want to do a little like news run. But I do want to. Is there anything that we didn't get to, Kev, that you wanted to make sure that people saw?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm most proud of about this application is that you can also run it locally. So on my screen here, you can see the control center.
Nice.
So this actually spins up 3 Python environments that you can start, and you can run all these models locally. I think that's the most important thing for music production. We don't want to be paying Suno Studio credits just to edit a sample that we didn't like.
Right, right. Does that control center like deploy, I'm presuming, a container that it like, is that only, did you have to pick like
No, it's not a container.
Not a container.
It's PyInstaller.
Oh really?
So,
it's straight up download the model.
It's literally a one-click exe. I'll share the repo.
On Windows is it cross-platform or Windows only?
Windows only, unfortunately.
It's
still really hard to get these things to run on Mac.
Yeah.
Where's my
there's definitely some like weird, you kind of have to pick one or the other basically. Well, yeah, why don't you feel free to like track down the repo and then grab some feel free to grab some links or whatever.
It's all in the Gary for Juice the Gumroad anyway.
So. Okay. Well, yeah, that's the place to direct the people to.
It's all free as
Perfect.
well.
Yes, URL for that is thepatch.gumroad.com, and you can find all of Kev's products, open source or not, potentially. Do you have that like pay as much as you want thing on there? You should put that on there so I can say.
Yes, I do.
Beautiful. Okay, well, have it for free if you want, but also pay him if you want because it's pretty freaking cool. Especially if it's useful to you.
Gumroad's basically my Patreon. So.
That's what we like.
We should get you on tip.md while you're at it too.
True.
Oh yeah. I've been meaning to try that. Yeah.
Speaking of, what did Rome clue me in on today? Oh yeah, one of the things that I found this week, courtesy of our friend Rome, who is the founder of TipMD, is a repo from Microsoft called Amplifier that has a bunch of interesting sort of patterns and like conceptual kind of approaches that you can take towards driving CLI agents, which I have not managed to explore yet. It looks like kind of a lot to me, but there's certainly one of the things that somebody pointed out was there's a bunch of nice little like one shots here, like 2 root causes, these nice little blurbs about how to go about Claude Code usage. So if that's something that's interesting to you, it's in the notebook, but also check out the link once I drop that. Let's see. We have, in addition to all of that stuff, we have the general roundup. So initially, I thought, oh yeah, the big release for the week is Claude Code plugins, and it turns out I didn't even have time to get to the specific article as relates to plugins. Because there's so much other stuff going on, but I think I will grab a link to that real quick just so we have it. Claude Code plugins. But today's release was quite interesting in that we now have a 4.5 haiku, which I have not tested yet, but we have that in Claude Code. And it looks like, so it now powers the Explore subagent. So we have a dedicated haiku subagent that comes prefabbed out of Claude Code, in which, let's see, you'll automatically use Sonnet 4.5 in plan mode and haiku in 4.5 for execution for smarter. Interesting. So rather than Opus to Sonnet, it's Sonnet to haiku, which I'm a little skeptical of because I don't know. I haven't found Sonnet to be a fantastic planner thus far. But that is one of the releases from them this week. We have a release from Langbase, who has they're making a CLI for this. It's in private beta, so we might have it next week to play with. I got in contact with the Langbase guys, so hopefully we can even have one of them come on and show us around like we did for Slate. So we have that to look forward to, but existing, this is kind of like their little bolt.new, except their shtick is that they generate agents for you rather than applications. We had another release of Gemini 3.0 Pro, which was getting A/B tested in Google's AI Studio. Let's see. Oh, Kev, can I grab the screen back from you?
Thanks for you. Yeah. If you can screen share, I think.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Kevin, you guys.
By the way, I got that Hugging Face space working.
Sweet.
I don't know why it wasn't working for you.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you want
Didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, do you mind cutting your stream and then I'll run these down and then maybe we can, if you got a jam ready by then, we can maybe close out with that.
Yeah, it's playing right now.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can't hear it.
I just wanted to. This is one of the things that makes Magenta Real Time cool.
Yeah.
Is that I've got warm up, which that was just a placeholder.
Mm-hmm.
That you can hear like warm up is it's a style. It sounds kind of like what you would think.
Yeah.
Then I got heavy metal here, and I can just in real time drag this up.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not getting audio from that, which kind of.
Oh, you're not getting my system audio?
Yeah, we're not.
Aww.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, if you wanna, let's see.
Wait, I got it. 1 sec.
All right, you got it. 1 sec. Okay, we'll pause over for that, and then, yeah, I don't want to.
I want to hear the music. This is great.
Yeah.
We need to hear the music before we go.
Yeah,
Let's see if it works. If not, if you can post a recording or something like that afterwards,
that'd
be great. We'd love to.
Absolutely.
Also, might play with the tool as well. It's fully online, right? Like you can just go to the website and play with it.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, we could just also pull it up. We can each pull it up. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, we could do like a little jam session in the lounge after.
Yeah, we can go back to the news later for the recording. Yeah, I guess actually that's a good point. We could do the jam session afterwards.
Yeah.
Kev, are you free in like 30 minutes or so? If we go through the news and stuff like that.
Oh, you probably can't hear us anymore because you changed your audio source on the Discord, I bet. Or we can't hear you. But
I think we need a new platform. Discord is weak for this, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Let's see.
All right, my bad.
You're good.
Dude, it's so hard to demo these things in Discord.
It's hard to demo them live in general, and it's hard to demo in Discord too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm unable to stream until yours stops. So if you got that, yeah, no, you're good.
There we go. My
Perfect.
bad.
You're good. Yeah, if you I don't let's play with it in the lounge
after the session. Let's hop in the lounge and we can all play with it. I'd love to try this.
That's the jam. Okay, let's see. So we had a couple of we had Haiku come into Claude Code. We have Gemini 3.0 Pro that was getting A/B tested in people's AI studio. Some people get it. I did not get it, but it seems to be quite interesting for front end. I thought I had a second link to it, but yeah, SVG of a PS4 controller. We have let's see. This is your PlayStation 4 controller, Claude Sonnet 4.5. Very nice, very nice.
That's actually particularly impressive because SVGs are a lot harder to render than just pixel by pixel.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No, it's
especially for rounded edges, things like that. That's a sign that we're moving towards the gaming verse actually really accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big thing about 3 or 4 months ago. Unity got really popular for LLM generation, and people were throwing the Unity model and basically building 3D worlds using LLMs, which is pretty cool because there's already there's a code and text format for that, so you can write it with LLMs, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, no,
it seems like they've now SVGs.
There's some super exciting stuff kind of going on in that space in general, and as these models kind of get more, the more they advance, the more kind of cool angles you can take on it, which is I'm super excited to see what people are doing with things like video games and music. In that, traditionally you kind of gotta work with whatever product you can buy out of the box, but with these things you can sort of generate a lot of it on the fly, which is super cool.
I'd be interested to see if they've just trained on generating SVGs, and so does the model have sapioception where it knows what the code is going to generate and it can guess what it's going to look like, or does it have to actually iterate over generating it and then review the images? That would be the interesting part. Yeah,
I imagine they didn't they did not make that distinction too obvious in AI Studio, but maybe they did. Let's see, 4.5 Sonnet versus Gemini 3 Pro on the robot SVG test. Okay. Interesting. But so yeah, that's presumably coming somewhat shortly. We also had a new release from Carpathy this week, which if anybody's familiar with Nano GPT, it is another repo that he released that is what is the smallest, most efficient version of GPT that we can get for people to play with that you can run on either Colab or consumer hardware or whatever. His next iteration of that is now Nano Chat, which is just a chat GPT sort of made by similar principles in that.
Interesting.
Yeah, the
fun fact, Nano GPT is actually the LM that's inside of Music Gen.
Really? So you're actually using it in there, or it's part of the model?
Yeah, it's trained specifically on audio tokens, which I guess they end up looking like little 3-digit strings.
At the end of the day, it's all tokens. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. Yeah, well, it might be worth looking at Nano Chat, although I don't know, how far in the guts you get. But one of the interesting things about, I think Jay has a couple of those. No, we covered that one last week as well, but I'll grab that. And I think, Jay has a few of those. I'll just post it in the chat.
I think the relevance is this Stanford paper that came out basically talks about agentic engineering, context engineering is going to probably kind of kill fine-tuning to some extent. That's an interesting concept in parallel to small GPT models, because these kind of tiny things that previously weren't super performant can be context engineered to performance now, which is kind of the interesting caveat. So it's the harness that the agent is wearing is more important than the actual base model.
Yeah.
And it seems like that kind of extends to all of these tiny little models that are now coming out and doing incredible things. There was that one from Samsung as well last week that was a big big step forward in terms of like assistant tech. And it was absolutely tiny. It was running on like smartphones, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is actually I've been using a workflow lately with my Claude code that relies on open code specs, which essentially, or is this no, not open code specs, open spec. Open spec, but it is in fact basically just that paper in a repo, in that generator, reflector, curator, and then you add a delta update for a small context change, and you never overwrite the old knowledge. You just archive the old stuff, which is the same flow that you used for open spec, i.e. you create a spec, then you create a delta, then you archive the old spec and update it with a new one. So I can say from personal experience that this is certainly I found it to be an effective workflow. I don't know that I would say it kills fine-tuning necessarily, but I think it is quite interesting in terms of being able to, I think it makes a strong case for being able to use small models effectively in agentic pipelines. I think that's totally something that seems, more viable every day that every new paper that we get.
Is this a good time to talk about Factory? Because they're actually kind of doing that, and we had some good experiences.
It could be, yeah. We have, I left a link in the show notes last week, but I will also leave one again this week. Ray Fernando has a promo for Factory to get 40 million tokens for free, which I will drop a link to in chat, and then I'll pull it down, or I'll put the link to it in the show notes. But Factory's most recent release is they have some interesting, I don't know if this is what they're doing. I don't know if this is the update that they're kind of doing this promo for. But it has some interesting stuff. But yeah, what was your experience this week when you were using Factory, like Al? I have my opinions, but I'm curious on yours.
Well, my experience is Codex and Claude are both stupider when you put them in a droid, unfortunately.
Sure.
They like to wear personal mech suits. One of the most kind of frustrating things I ran into was just the way that droids misuse Opus credits. So if anybody else has run into this, sorry, we didn't get the word out, I guess. Both Yikes and I burned through our Opus credits like almost immediately on our first run of installing Factory, and then we had to go and get new fake accounts. So we've now signed in with a few of our different emails. But
I haven't been impressed with Opus whatsoever.
So Opus works really well in the Claude code harness.
Okay.
I think what they're training it for, but it doesn't work well when it's not in its little mech suit and it doesn't have all of its tools.
Yeah.
And it seems like, especially on Factory, where they bill you 6x on Opus usage. Actually, Yikes, can you pull up the droid model screen? I think that would be really helpful to show.
Droid model screen.
It shows the multipliers that they have. So if you open a droid and then you type /model.
Yeah. Give me just a second.
Because they bill you 6 times as much for Opus, but then also Opus uses like 10 times as many tokens. So actually, you're getting like you're consuming your 40 million tokens from the free trial at like an exponential pace compared to any other tool. Also, Opus will do a lot of deep research type stuff and try to go learn what's going on. The other thing I found is that droids seem to not use subagents as well. I found the Claude to Sonnet, the Opus to Sonnet relationship is very strong, whereas using droids as subagents was a bit tricky for me. I don't know if you ran into the same thing, Yikes.
Yes, my inquiry for you would be, did you try using their droid core model, i.e. their GLM version? Because I just tried that.
Yeah, so I think I tried it the same way that you had described using it, which was just for research and for doing subagent type workflows. And I found that was pretty helpful if I had like a separate droid running that was just doing research and then it was handing off full MD files. But I couldn't use the workflow that I usually use with Opus, which is to get Opus to manage a bunch of subagents with Sonnet 4.5 running. And I found the clunkiness of that handoff through a .md file seemed to be like I had to reload the whole context, whereas the flow of running subagents and then passing just like the summary information into the context seems to work a lot more smoothly. And you'd think that it would be the same, but it, for some reason, the way that the agent focuses on the information seems to be different.
Yeah, I originally started with, I found Droid to be fairly effective But I pretty quickly moved away from using either Opus or Sonnet.
On Droid.
On Droid, yes.
Yeah. The GPT. Well, the bonus is that GPT-5 is it's like 0.5x on billing, whereas Opus is incredibly like 6x or it's in there 4.1 as 6x.
Yep.
And even like Sonnet 4.5, which is basically free on Claude Code, is 1.2x. So like you kind of want to stick to not using the Anthropic models here.
Interesting.
Deploy.
Yeah, I think that's actually why I preferred not to use Opus, is how quickly I was getting rate limited. I need to do a lot of iterations, so it just...
Yeah, Opus is definitely they're definitely moving the direction of using Opus almost exclusively to drive subagents, which works really well in Claude Code. If you specifically use the word subagents, then it knows that it's supposed to be doing that.
Okay.
But if you don't do that, then it seems to get very confused. The thing with droids is that Opus doesn't have that ability inside this harness. It's a weird hodgepodge, actually, because they seem to be very GPT focused, but then they have this, the GLM core, which is their open source model that they host themselves.
Yeah,
I believe that's how that works.
I'm firing the GLM at the moment. The frustration that I ran into was Opus and Sonnet were both too expensive. They weren't that good at using the harness. Codex was cheap, and when it could successfully use the harness, then it was great. But the problem was it would try to use the patch tool almost constantly, and since Codex is not trained for the kind of tool calling format that droids are using, it would fail almost constantly. So and I just started experimenting with this last night. I pulled up DroidCore, and what's interesting to me about DroidCore is that the reasoning is it's adequate. It's probably somewhere between Haiku and Sonnet. But it does what you tell it to, and it's very good at using the functionality of the droid harness, and it's also very fast. So the approach that I have taken, let me see if I have my command here. I had it make me, no, I don't have it. Essentially, the flow that I'm interested in exploring with it is having it deploy fleets of subdroids, which is something normally I avoid, which I guess there is a good detour here. One of the ways to blow up your token count, especially using this thing, is, or using this harness, because the tokens cost 6x, is there is, when you're using agentic coding tools and LLMs in general, there is something called the KV cache in that process, which is in the GPU, you load up the context into the GPU, and then you do a bunch of math over and over that thing that you've loaded into the cache. And the thing is, you have to flush that cache as soon as the contents of it change at all. So the problem with deploying a bunch of parallel droids is that each of those is going to have their own cache, and there's no way for you to organize or make sure that the cache operations are happening in such a way where you are preserving the amount of tokens that get to stay in the cache, which is what will significantly reduce your cost. So, moral of the story is, for anytime you send a message to an LLM, the more of that message that you're sending, like the message history and everything, the more of that you can keep the same as it was the last time you sent a message to the LLM, the cheaper you are. And the problem with using subagents is that your cache gets blown up, because all 10 of these are going to have a different cache, and and as soon as one of them deviates from like if they call the tool in a different way, or if their history gets if their history is not getting reused properly, which is going to happen with all these subagents because they're one-shot context windows, then that will blow me up on cost, unless I use the cheap model that is very good at deploying several droids in parallel. And then the other useful thing that I found is the droid and the other more powerful models can do this as well, but Droid has a generate droid configuration. So one of the things that I've started attaching to all of my prompts, the workflow that I want to explore with this thing, is deploy a fleet of droids to complete my task, deploy one extra droid that, based on the directives given to the other ones, generates a new droid configuration that it believes will be most useful for the next time I deploy a new fleet, and just repeat that over and over. Yeah, the idea being, what I think it'll be effective largely because I'm using the fast, cheap, but reasonably smart model that is trained to use this harness well, and then I am having it like use an iterative workflow where it's feeding back in on itself, and then the other sort of component to this is rather than rely on the primary context window as my main thread and stick the smart guy there, I'm going to have this guy that's really good at tool calling and deploying, and I'm going to give it a droid that has essentially no tools but might have an opus or something in it, and every time I deploy a fleet of these droids, I will the smart droid, effectively the brain droid or whatever. After these guys return and come back in, then the flow that I'm looking towards doing is to send is to now call the brain droid, evaluate if the new droid proposal, like the new configuration for that fleet deployment, is the most effective one, and whether it like accepts or rejects the output of these guys. So the idea is that the brain droid won't do any tool calling, so it will save on all the tokens that it can. The directive for it will be like, just ultra think and then only tell me in the most succinct way possible what needs to be done for these specific things. And I think that will be a fairly token efficient way to approach the problem. But my unlock for droid largely has been actually let droid core drive and then have it call in smarts when it needs it, because I have not seen this thing mess up a tool call yet. And the sub droids that it deploys are also very, very fast, because it just did 10 different analysis trajectories in a minute or two.
Wow. Have you found the hallucination rate is okay? Because I think for research tasks that makes a lot of sense, but for the reasoning to plan the research, sometimes that could be lacking, right?
Yeah. So for these, the way that I'm approaching that is to use the quote-unquote brain droid as the quality gate. So the idea would be, these guys get fairly simple prompts. They have research, they have default research prompts that's just like, go do some research. Notice that all of these guys are codecs as well. So these are all a little bit smarter than they need to be. And then the idea would be, on return, the brain droid essentially is the quality gate. It's going to say, this researcher codex, the response that you got from this is good, and we should keep it. So it's going to be like yes, no on all of these, and then it's going to like review this generation and say, no, this is not what you need. And then we just iteratively have the fleet redeploying itself and then getting quality gated by the smart model effectively. So in theory, if the smart model is smart enough, then it will let me know when or if these guys are hallucinating effectively. And then my test suite should shore up the actual code I'm getting out of it.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely full circle on the tiny models doing big things.
Yeah. It's I have no idea whether or not it'll work at all, but I'm interested to see if we get what else we get, if anything. Or like,
I might have to go make a new Gmail account so I can have a separate 40 million tokens to try on this kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I think it's an interesting. I'm not the hugest fan of multi-agent patterns in general, but I'm interested to kind of put this guy through the paces and see how it goes. So yeah, there's also there's several features of Droid that I haven't tried. They're fairly standard across harnesses these days, I would say. We have like Slack integrations, linear integrations. We have a headless exec. This is actually kind of interesting. I'm probably going to explore this a little bit more. But yeah, we are coming up on top of the hour, so there is all sorts, tons of other stuff left. There's a couple of other things I wanted to point out. One being, especially because we have the promo going on, or for Droid, get some tokens and experiment with that. Also, if you've been hearing about AMP Code, that's another CLI coding agent, and they just released their free mode. So there is now, if you do not have an affordable way to experiment with the coding agents, you can now use AMP free, as well as here's some more examples from Gemini 3. But there is also now a free mode of Klein as well, which is another. It's not a CLI agent; it's an extension, but it's fairly feature parity with the other ones. So if you've been like looking to kind of dive into this stuff and don't know where to start and don't want to like pay a bunch of money to like get a thing that you're not sure works, go try like the free versions of these, because there seems to be several now. It's something that I wanted to draw attention to. But let me see if there's anything else that seemed particularly important for these guys. Lovable's got a new cloud, which is pretty cool. Replit, this is from last month, but Replit can do its own agents now. So Agent 3 can deploy its own agents. We can get into those swarm patterns as well. Bolt had something, maybe? I'm not sure if it did. But notably, in Bolt, and I don't think that Lovable does this yet. I know Replit has their own, but in Bolt you can now use Claude Code and Codex if you want. So that if you haven't tried Bolt recently, or like you found it to be very lacking last time you did, because I know I did, then it might be worth another shot these days. And then lastly was Vibe Coding Olympics, which I believe Al, you attended, right? But that was
that was a hoot. I wish that I had like better pictures or something, but I'm gonna just paint the picture for everybody here. The basement of Frontier Tower is an unfinished basement. It looks like some place that you would have an actual fight club. The last time I was there before this, actually, Frontier Tower is like this crypto Web3 tower in downtown SF. The last time I was there, they actually had robot fights in a cage in the basement, and there were like people cheering while the robots fought, and then a bunch of people had taser fights. I actually got in the ring and got to be part of the taser fights. That was pretty fun. I had to say that I only got tased once, which was pretty cool. They were light tasers, so these aren't like serious tasers. No human rights issues or anything, but
always wanted to be tased.
Yeah, so the robots were also fighting with tasers, which was pretty funny.
Really?
So this is about like 3 months ago, and that was my last experience with Frontier Tower. And then this time, they had 4 big TVs set up, and they had 4 desks set up in the ring, and they had people vibe coding. And so they called this the Vibe Olympiad. And the idea was not a standard hackathon, but actually like a spectator sport. And the cool thing is vibe coding has now accelerated to the point where you can actually watch somebody vibe code, and it's pretty fun to watch when they're in a hurry. The final contestants in the semifinals, they actually had to build Minecraft. And 2 of the contestants successfully built things that looked like Minecraft in under 15 minutes. And it was absolutely thrilling to watch. And there's like a live announcer the whole time too. Actually, Octavia, who's usually here, member of the tribe team, was actually up as an announcer for a little bit. That was pretty cool. So we'll probably post some pictures about that. But yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah,
it was a very, very interesting event.
I think that's I definitely want to start doing something like that here, because I've had it in my head of a like esports version of a hackathon, and I think there's enough velocity available to make that like fairly engaging at this point. So I guess like stay tuned for around here, but also keep an eye out for any of those types of events. I know Dex has been sort of orienting around doing that a lot. So if you are in SF, then Human Layer is definitely somebody you could probably get in touch with if that's interesting to you.
Yeah, really interesting folks. We spoke with them as well. They're pretty interested in running something in the future. We also bumped into the person who just launched Anthropic's plugins, who was there as a spectator. So you can tell the community's definitely starting to get into this kind of cypherpunk era, which is pretty cool.
Yes, we like it. We like it.
Do we have anything to share about the Anthropic plugins? I didn't get into it too much, but I think it is an interesting avenue. Basically, more composable tools is the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, so I guess to give like a quick thing about it, essentially, so like Claude Code now has a plugins functionality. So if you're familiar with the components of Claude Code, being hooks, MCP servers, subagents, and slash commands, you can now package those up together, and then you can install them directly. And I believe, actually, we might be able to check if Claude has a plugin slash command right now. Plugins. Yeah, okay, so browse and install, maybe? Is that going to work? No marketplace. Okay, well, there is a marketplace available for those now, which I will switch my screen over to that, just so we know. Change stream, maybe? Okay, let's see. Let's stop that. Let's do this. Let's go here and then go there. Is there an added? Okay. But yes, if you use the slash plugin command, that will allow you to manage and install your plugins. Unfortunately, I don't have any pre-configured. But the interesting part to me about these is that, and I pinged Kat on Twitter, and I was like, will disabling the plugin actually take the thing out of my context window? Because that's my big issue with MCPs, is they're hogging my context when they don't need to. But you can now, as a developer, put together your own Claude Code marketplace, and then I could, for instance, in my terminal, go be able to do something like, if I can get rid of that, and then I can go here, and then I can do this. I can add this to my my Claude Code list of plugin marketplaces, and then I can download these things. I don't know if they have a way to facilitate payments in that marketplace, but I presume that will be the case sooner than later.
Sounds like they're turning into a platform. Time to be an app store and make money.
That seems to be the thing. Let's see. We have, so this one is all agents. So if you're familiar with subagents, like installing this plugin would be, it would give you just these subagents, and you can include tools or hooks or whatever else it is you, or MCPs that would be useful. So we have like a few commands.
Pretty UI.
We have some agents. Yeah, right? I think you did a really good job on it. But yeah, so this is like, I know, Al, you and I last night were actually doing a Claude Code oriented deployment. And you know, these are all tasks that Claude is quite good at, but if it has, it could be that it becomes much better at it if given these tools, or it could be that it's worse because there is context clog, which is certainly something I'm looking forward to experimenting with.
Yeah, the MCP servers were kind of the similar feeling of hope, and then the context bloat was kind of a killer.
Yeah, for both of these, I'd rather just tell to use CLI.
CLI tools. Legacy CLI tools do seem to be the most efficient way to use these kinds of things. But, it looks like Matthew posted something in the chat. Do you want to try and pull that one up and talk through it?
The BMAD method. Okay, let's see. This reminds me of... Yeah, so this reminds me of a thing that is similar to something like Super Claude, which I guess like these are kind of the proto Claude plugins, if you will. Let me find Super Claude. Oh, okay, it's not that one. Super Claude Framework GitHub.
Yeah, it's funny to see the market moving away from actual code and towards like packaged plugins, but I guess it makes sense for reliability reasons.
Yeah, well, yeah, it continues to, it never ceases to amaze how much you can get out of Markdown these days, because it's kind of a lot. But let's see. So we have an installer. We can do module selection, and then blah blah blah, scale it out. Okay, this is a lot of, analyst, game designer, planning, game designer. So yeah, is there do I basically, yeah, have you been using this, Matthew, or is it am I on track in that this is probably a collection of prompts, subagents, tools, MCPs, etc. Um, or is there something I'm not getting on the initial skim here? But yeah, for sure. Should have. Let's see. You should be able to unmute. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. If I do mute, unmute. Yeah, there should be a little microphone icon in your bottom left of your screen that you should be able to click. You are not. Let me see if your roles look like you should be able to. Yeah. If you yeah, if you can find a little microphone icon in the bottom left, that's what you're looking for. But went to hackathon, one guy used it in your team and was interested if we tried it. Yeah, I have not tried this one. And it looks like fairly extensive. So the one that I tried that this reminds me of at a glance is called SuperClaude. Which is, and there's a few others of these like Claudeflow, etc. At the end of the day, what they are is like basically, I think it would be reasonable to say that Claude Code plugins are trying to be what, like, these are the early versions of those. So we'll see if this kind of format works better or plugins work better. But my experience, honestly, and Al actually sent me this article earlier in the week, and it's sort of tracking with something that I found, which is my usual instinct is to do a lot of, like, I'm a NeoVim guy, I love all the, like, plugins and the fancy new toys or whatever, but I'm finding more these days that, like, less is more. So, like, the less that if I just give it the right context and have it use its tools, I end up in a lot better shape than like trying to get too fancy with it.
Can you, guys, can you zoom in on the graph? I think the graph is important.
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to explain it
we
quickly.
got a graph. Okay. Curve of agent. Please fix this. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You actually zoom in your screen on the graph.
Yeah. Let's see. I remember how to do that in Mac. Yep, definitely.
Yeah, because I can't read it.
Command plus.
There we go.
There you go. Cool. Okay, so the thing about this that's interesting, this is from Peter Steinberger, who is now he's actually, I think, one of the main people leading how Apple is implementing agentic design with Claude, which is pretty cool. So he's doing a lot of the design around like how iOS apps will be designed 5 years from now.
We may try to get him on stage.
He went through this huge. Yeah, I've DM'd him a few times. He was at a conference last week, but he has said that he'll come on in the near future. His main thing though is at the beginning, about like 3 or 4 months ago, he was talking always about like just kind of like how much he was getting done, his 300,000 lines of code, how he was just running like 10 of these in parallel and kind of yelling at them, and they were doing a good job. And then 2 or 3 months ago, he was very into like, he was going to process and set up everything. It was kind of like everybody was talking about orchestrators, and he went deep down that rabbit hole. And then I think the point of this graph is to show the right curve over time is, here are the files I want you to understand. And then here is the thing I want you to try to achieve. Make me a plan that references all the citations, and do all the work that you can with subagents so that you stay in focus and that you're not going and reading all these files and managing all these tool calls. And this is seemingly the best way to handle it. It's the only way to really get the agent to know exactly what's in the code base. You have to ask them specifically to cite their sources and come up with like a list of file paths and line numbers. And that works quite well. Then the next thing beyond that is you can actually kind of gaslight the agent a little bit. I actually saw this on an Instagram post yesterday, which I'll repost it at some point in the Discord. But it was a list of ways to gaslight Claude and GPT-5. And they're pretty fascinating things. One of them is like, you are a person with an IQ of blank. And if you give them a number, then they start to think that they're smart. And they actually like think like a very intelligent person. And then the second one that I really liked was, you can tell them that they explained all of this to you yesterday.
Yes.
And that you remember. And that they have to come up with all of the answers and show you the proof. And then what happens is that they know that you know, and that they used to know, and then they don't want to lie or be made out to be a liar. So they end up, by trying to incentive engineer you, they actually follow what you are asking them to do, which is fascinating. And that combined with the citing a bunch of different files seems to be the real impactful way to bring this forward.
Yeah, it's there's some it's sort of like, it reminds me of like the early days with the magic prompts in GPT 3.5 Turbo and GPT 4, where you would have like not particularly human readable. I know Stunspot was somebody that was doing a lot of these, Quicksilver as well. Where you would kind of the sort of like thesis was like, oh, if you give it like these magic tokens, then it'll be way better at doing the things, which I think is like I think the principle there remains, i.e., if you tell one of the techniques that I find to be effective is if you tell, or I have it in my Claude MD, where if you tell Claude that we want to get our work done quickly and concisely, because the sooner we finish, the sooner we get to go on vacation. But if we screw anything up and have to go back to it, then we have to come back from vacation and go all the way home. So do it right and do it quick. And I find
exactly
the general.
But it's establishing their reality that they live in,
yeah,
and then giving them specific file references to review. And if you can do that correctly, you don't need these like big, bulky prompts. Because the thing that happened with SuperClaude and with a bunch of these is mostly I think people went and generated like really complex prompt trees and stuff.
Yep.
And calibrating those back to like the latest version of Claude or to the like latest process flow is very hard to do. So you end up with a lot of bloat, I think. I've personally avoided them, but you also make fun of me, Yikes, for actually writing my prompts by hand. So.
Well, yeah, my thought is I do think that models are better at prompting other models than humans are, but I don't think that having a human tell a model to generate a bunch of prefabbed prompts that will make this model better at doing the thing is the way to go about implementing that. The way but I think there's something to be said for the like tactical, tightly focused, like drop in a Claude MD here because we know this thing is going to screw up, and like I would rather have Claude watching that and trying to like concisely do the steering for me rather than me try to like get in the way of steering the model essentially. Because I think
definitely. I find this is why I like the sub-agent flow so much, because Opus is really good at figuring out what to say to the other agents once I make Opus understand what I want.
Yeah.
And if I can sufficiently explain what I want and I can give it the context that it's working in, context again, if I give it the right information though, and I tell it, this is the world that we live in, this is who you are, this is the available resources you have. What I really like about that is that the sub-agents are the ones that go and do all of the dirty work. And so the context that I have with Opus doesn't get polluted, which means I get to have these long conversations while it does all the work. But it's not doing the work. The sub-agents are doing all the work. So it actually knows what's going on, and its context doesn't get flooded as much. And that actually even seems to work pretty well with Sonnet 4.5. I haven't tried nested sub-agents yet, but I imagine that at some point that would help with a certain level of complexity.
Yeah, I think there's the kind of directions that I'm looking to experiment with are like kind of that the sort of principle that I'm orienting around is like there's an OpenAI interview that was like, some of our engineers that are sort of still onboarding to this thing, what they'll do is they'll try to use it and keep it very contained and only kind of use one at a time and be very careful manually checking it. But the like people who are more like AI native are very much like just kind of let the AGI do it, where it's you give it like enough structure to stay on the rails, but don't and then like try your best not to interrupt it and just let it do the thing. The idea, and I'm hoping that I can sort of expand that into. There's two workflows that are really interesting to me right now, which one is the sort of like droid swarm thing, and like the principle that I want to approach with that is, so the droids will complete the research run, and then rather than tell them, hey, I want this kind of agent next, I'm just going to say, hey, consult with the brain droid with all of the stuff that you just did, and then have the brain droid tell you what the next useful type of sub-agent to generate should be. The idea being like, I'm mostly just trying to keep you in the loop, but I'm letting them drive the entire loop, essentially. is kind of the
that's
principle.
I haven't quite figured out how to have that level of hands-off control and still get results, but that does sound really appealing.
Yeah, it's.
Can I share my screen really quick? I want to show off the
sure.
latest tribe release that we have.
Yeah, good call. Good
probably
call.
last release.
Yeah.
And then we get to go play with me in the lounge.
Yes, sounds like a plan to me. Let me undo my.
So interesting to me when you guys talk about sub agents. I kind of start realizing like I think I'm the sub agent in my workflow. You know, with these copy paste workflows that I do.
That's kind of what I've been trying to get away from. I find that when I feel like the sub agent, my workflow doesn't feel exciting. I think Yikes has got me beat on that though, actually, because he tends to do this. He actually puts a lot of work into his workflow, like a scientist level of thinking. Is a lot
deck
of fun.
building the deck builder.
That's the yep, exactly.
I just want to show off this latest release of what we've just pulled together this week. So on the left-hand side here are all of my agent terminals. And actually, if I go across, I've got a few more spaces, and each one of my spaces is full of agent terminals and stuff. And I've even got my like fig gems, and I take screenshots and then pass those into my agents sometimes. So on average, I have 10 running at a time. One of the things that we noticed recently is it's really helpful to have a kind of an update or a status update of what's going on behind the scenes, because these agents are ripping. And if I kick off one of these agents to do something like, let's say, double check your work with subagents, this is going to lead to a whole bunch of file system events and all kinds of reads and all this stuff. And the whole reason that we put like Tribe together in the first place was to show you all of that. So I now have all of my events showing up in here, and I can see all the tool calls and everything, some activity graphs. But this is kind of hard to read and kind of clunky. So we were thinking there might be a better user interface. And we created this sort of status log that comes out as you are actually working within your code base. Now, the cool thing about this is Yikes figured out, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, where we were finding a lot of PII in the logs. PII being like security vulnerabilities and secret keys, things that you don't want in our records on Tribe. So like, we want to scrub those out so we're not liable for getting you hacked, but you also don't really want them sitting around in your logs on your computer, because a lot of those keys might be actually important at some point. So one of the things that we rigged up is a PII scrubber, which is now running.
Sweet.
And so as this is running here, you'll see that it actually does end up, in fact, actually with this prompt over here, this one's doing some DevOps. So that one that's doing DevOps, you'll eventually see some PII popping up in here, and it'll say like, we found this and we've scrubbed it out of the logs. Here's the key that might have been compromised. And we keep those notes for you. And then the really cool thing, which Yikes asked for yesterday, and I'm proud that it's now working, is this little 6i here is your insights. And so one of the things that we've been doing with Tribe is trying to help people learn how to use these tools better. And so insights allow you to basically have retroactive views of all the things that are happening. And so you have certain events that trigger us. We see those events, and then we know what's going on within your machine and what's going on with your dev workflow. So you can actually now see those in the CLI. So you can keep this open while you're working, and it'll tell you what you're doing wrong, what is actually going on under the hood. And obviously you can prompt out to go and look at it, but the key thing is you can kind of just watch this output. And so if you have all these sub-agents running and you can't see like two levels down into your sub-agent stack, the Tribe CLI now allows you to monitor all of that in real time.
Yeah, I'm glad that it looks like the status line is you ended up making that work too. It looks like it.
Yeah, it's all running live.
Beautiful. Yeah.
A couple little bugs come out of it still. So you occasionally do have to restart it if you navigate around too much, because our GUI is in the beta stages. But it's pretty nice. I've actually just been using it all day today, and I've seen it come up like 6 times saying like, found some PII and scrubbed it. And I've actually been enjoying watching what's actually happening, because I can see all the file reads that it's doing. Which when they're just scrolling up the screen like this, it's really hard to keep tabs on what's going on.
Yeah, true.
But this is like a nice little compressed view.
Yeah, no, that's super. Yeah, no, I think it's quite because within Claude Code, they do their best to kind of show you the critical information, but it's nice to know that if you need to dig down somewhere, you can kind of go look at the stream over on the side. I was sort of like debating like between is it a risk to add more noise, or is it or like if you try to do a very low noise kind of feedback in terms of UX, then you have to make sure that when you do kind of provide an informational update, that it has to hit. So it's nice that that you found that the stream is kind of working for you, so you can see all these individual little tool calls from the whole fleet. That's like it's good. It's interesting. I'm interested. I'm quite interested to see how it works on the droid swarm too. That should be fun.
Yeah, that's the next step. So we have codex compatibility hopefully coming out tomorrow. Oh, you can see here it caught a security vulnerability, but it's saying it's actually a 0 out of 100, so it's just a warning basically. Working on cleaning up the UX, so this is a little bit cleaner, but you will also be able to see the security logs as well.
Hell yeah.
And by the way, this is 20,000 total events since I started running this yesterday. So there's quite a bit of data coming out of these things that is really hard to quantify. I probably worked like 12 hours out of the last 20, so 20,000 in 12 hours. It's about like 1,000 an hour roughly, with 6 agents running. So it's quite a bit of information that's streaming out of there. And we're hoping that we can help everybody pipe this back into their agents, so maybe it won't be quite as intrusive of a process. But yeah. Anyways, quick update from the tribe side. We are now live though, and you can try the free trial. We're going to start giving out, I think, what did we say, Yikes? Anybody who has a higher fire score than us gets to see the code base.
I know I floated that idea, which I'm happy to facilitate, and then maybe we'll have some follow-up events in that general vein. But yeah, I'm all for.
We're gonna start giving out some cool prizes and maybe backstage access and things like that for anybody that gets a higher fire score. Oh, and you can see here, so I found one security score of 55. So this one's actually pretty serious. Working on the UI so you can view those, but that'll all show up in the same interface here. So it's nice and easy to see what's going on under the scenes or behind the scenes. The other advantage of this also is we did introduce teams this week. So you can invite team members to join your team, which means that if you're running a company and you have a bunch of people that are doing this, you can catch all of the PII that's being leaked across the organization, which we think is pretty important for most of the people we've talked to at least.
No, well, yeah, and I think it's I think after Niston raised the point the other week, I am glad we went for that integration, because I think it's going to be hopefully helpful in sort of just generally making things more secure in our age of our lovely code and token slot machines, if you will. But yeah, I'm
the Dunning-Kruger machines.
Absolutely, the eternal thingam. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I was showing the right thing. Okay, cool. And then if I switch this, make sure that that's good.
Oh, yikes, we're not seeing your screen.
I know. I gotta change a thing here. Orion can do that, and then that can go there.
That's coming back shortly, and then we're gonna hop over to the lounge, and we're gonna do a jam session, I guess.
Yes, let's do it. Yes. So, let's see. Let's do a. Yeah, in terms of roundups for this week, was there anything that was of particular, like, interest from you guys, or for you guys? Like, was there anything work for? I guess my initial inquiry might be for Kev, if there's anything that you were planning on trying out this week, or anything that you thought was particularly like good to know now, I guess, from this week.
Like related to agents, or related to like what I've been working on?
Just like a final thought of whatever you got out of stuff this week, if anything.
No, I mean, I basically I trade my time between coding and music. This week's been mostly music.
Nice.
But yeah, I find that these models just keep getting better. So it's always hard for me to judge a particular framework or workflow.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, next week it might be amazing, you know?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, no, I think at least for
that's kind of the interest.
Oh yeah, you go. You're good. Unless not.
Oh, sure. No, Kevin, that's kind of the direction that we're going with Tribe, where like nobody knows which tool is going to be useful tomorrow or next week, but keeping tabs on them seems like the one thing that we can guarantee is going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Personally, also, it allows us to try these things and see a little bit more under the hood, which is going to be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on these things that you don't see when you just type in the command line.
Yeah, I think.
I think the one thing about my workflow that I do like is that I end up memorizing my whole code base. You know, I still I'm not a coder and I don't quite understand context, but it's kind of like this innate understanding, you know, being in the loop so hard, you know. I get this feedback loop where I know exactly what needs to happen next, you know, or I know exactly what's going wrong.
Well, and clearly, you
and
know,
I just
yeah, and
I
clearly, like
encounter a lot with.
it's enough to
Oh,
build
go.
software is the thing, which is the the like, even, you know, regardless of how, of where you're back, like if you're, even if your primary interest is still music, like being able to kind of have that level of engagement with a